you got a 30% tax credit, and there was no limit to it. So if you spent $100,000 outfitting your mansion with the solar panels, you got a $30,000 of that paid for by Uncle Sam. And so there's just been a study by the Treasury Department finding that six-figure earners got 2/3 of the benefit from this, with a massive portion being like even wealthier people than that. So this was definitely a tax cut for the wealthy. So this is something both parties are doing because, well, if you're going to cut taxes, the people getting the benefit are going to be the people paying the taxes, which is not the poor.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with senior columnist Tim Carney. Tim, Democrats right now are running on a sort of pseudo-populist message, pseudo-centrist message that involves largely tax cuts for lower-income people, and accusing Republicans of tax cuts for the rich. But we were talking earlier, there might be some hypocrisy in that message.
Well, sure. Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, has said that his number one priority is going to be repealing one particular provision of Trump's 2017 tax cut. That is, he wants unlimited deductibility for what we call SALT, state and local taxes. So that's only a tax break, though, for people who live in really nice suburbs in Long Island. You have to have, you already get a $29,000 standard deduction if you're married, and so people have to have much more than that. They have to have more than $10,000 in property taxes and state income taxes. So upper middle class and wealthy people in New York and New Jersey are the only beneficiaries of this tax thing that Chuck Schumer said is his priority, while meanwhile they're pretending that the whole Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was just a tax cut for the rich, and they're saying they're going to repeal the whole thing.
Right, that's a narrative that we've heard for years now. I mean, it's been, 7 years since those tax cuts were signed into law, and it's wrong, right? That
it's wrong, but it worked. It worked. In other words, most people got almost everybody got a tax cut from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. But when polls were done during the debate, right after it passed, even when people filled out their taxes, a year and a half after the bill passed, most people thought they got a tax increase. So I say this was, and there were liberals who patted themselves on the back. Matt Iglesias tweeted out, this was a huge victory for the progressive message machine, that we gave most people that Republicans gave most people a tax cut, and we convinced them that their taxes were hiked. That's a really difficult thing to do. And they did it, in part because the news media played along with the Democratic message machine.
Of course. But now that repeal of those is on the table, I mean, won't that mean a tax increase for most people then?
So, yes, if you repealed the whole Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, then most Americans, except for maybe some of those upper middle class suburban taxpayers in Long Island, most Americans would obviously see a tax increase if they repealed Trump's tax cut, because your standard deduction would get cut in half. Your child tax credit would get cut in half. Your 12% tax rate would become a 15% tax rate. So they are talking about repealing just some parts of the bill. And so they're obviously not going to repeal the entirety of it. So one of the points that Democrats make that's correct is that wealthy people got a bigger tax cut from this because, well, people who pay more taxes get bigger benefits from tax cuts. But one thing that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did, it actually shifted a greater portion of our taxes to the wealthy, precisely because it knocked, if you made $55,000 a year as a married couple, you now basically owed zero taxes under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So they got a 100% tax cut. If the bill gets repealed, those same people will get a $1,000 tax hike.
And finally, one of the other areas of potential hypocrisy for Democrats saying that, they are just interested in policies that don't benefit the wealthy is their support for green home subsidies, right?
Yeah, so the IRA, the misnamed Inflation Reduction Act, included all sorts of environmental subsidies, and one was if you add solar panels to your house or other sort of green energy things, you got a 30% tax credit, and there was no limit to it. So if you spent $100,000 outfitting your mansion with the solar panels, you got a $30,000 of that paid for by Uncle Sam. And so there's just been a study by the Treasury Department finding that six-figure earners got 2/3 of the benefit from this, with a massive portion being even wealthier people than that. So this was definitely a tax cut for the wealthy. So this is something both parties are doing because, well, if you're going to cut taxes, the people getting the benefit are going to be the people paying the taxes, which is not the poor.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Tim and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.